No, it's not lit up. And good evening, and welcome to First Baptist Church tonight. I start with a WSA. A WSA is just like a PSA, a public service announcement, only a little different. A WSA is a worship service announcement. Tonight I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different. I'm going to ask you to, for the next 30 minutes, rid yourself of distractions. If there's background noise going on in your house, quiet that down. I have heard over the last month or so that some of you have been listening to me while you've been washing the dishes or cleaning the house or doing other chores. I'm going to ask you to settle down tonight and lay those activities aside. I'm going to ask you tonight to get yourself to a place where you can find a measure of quiet. We're going to be talking tonight about rhythms of life from a spiritual direction. That's become really important to me. One of the things that this whole COVID-19 thing has reminded me of is that I have not had very healthy rhythms in my life, and I'm going to get into that shortly. So in just a moment, I'm going to have my team here do an opening video clip for us. And then we're going to have a little bit of time to do some prayer and worship here early on tonight, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But if you've not ridded yourself, I don't know if that's a word, ridded? I don't think that's a word. If you've not removed distractions wherever you are tonight, I'm going to ask you to do that while this video is playing. Sit down, and let's have a moment of stillness together tonight. At 52 years old, I grew up in a time that a lot of you did when on Sundays, all the major stores were closed. You couldn't get out and do a lot of shopping on a Sunday. Little convenience stores, gas stations, they were open, but most everything else was closed. I grew up in a time when a holiday was actually a holiday. There were no sales or things going on during the 4th of July or Labor Day. Thanksgiving hadn't been taken over with sales starting 2 o'clock Thanksgiving afternoon. A holiday meant a day off. I grew up in a time where I think there was a healthier rhythm to the life that we lived. You see, God didn't create us to go full speed 7 days a week. We were created to find time to unwind, unplug, decompress, rest, quiet things down. Remember, one of the 10 commandments, one of God's big commands for us, is to set aside a Sabbath day and to keep it holy, to rest, to take a nap, to spend time with your family, to go out on an adventure, do something that recharges your batteries and energizes your soul. We've lost that. We've lost our sense of stillness. I think for many people today, stillness and quiet brings about a sense of anxiety. We struggle with the notion of quieting down. Our cell phone era, I think, has done something unhealthy for us. We are living with a sense of urgency that we were never created to live with. We are able to be reached anywhere we are at any time, whether it's in the car or other places. We are living with an urgency that is not healthy. Rhythms of life. What are the rhythms that you live with? Do you remember those days, some of you, when everything was closed on Sundays? My family went to church in the morning. We came home, had Sunday dinner with my two grandmothers, and then we got in our station wagon. Some of you might not know what a station wagon is. That was kind of the prequel to the minivan. But we got in our blue Chevy station wagon on Sunday afternoons, and we went out on hikes. We went to parks. We went to the beach. We did stuff together as a family. We've lost our sense of Sabbath. We've lost that day of stillness and quiet. We have allowed sports to overtake Sundays, and a lot of our families are running like crazy on that day that was intended for rest for us. We have allowed baby showers and wedding showers and stuff to begin at 10 or 11 in the morning on a Sunday, and we're busy and we're kind of going crazy. We've lost that day that brought to us a sense of stillness and rest. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for just a moment and share with me a quick little prayer activity that I know some of you have done with me before. But close your eyes for a moment. Allow yourself to just be aware of your breathing for a moment here. And join me for a moment of stillness as we share Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. 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 We live in a world today where we are defined by the things that we do. And we've allowed that mentality to infiltrate the church. We have this mindset that the busier we are as a church, the more successful we are. Look at all of the things that the church is doing. In our pursuit to make sure that our kids are well-rounded, we keep them busy. We go from one sports season to the next without any break, without any moments of stillness. We see our kids joining all kinds of different groups and clubs with school. In the pursuit to have our kids well-rounded, We've kind of bought into the logic that the busier they are, the more well-rounded they are going to be as people. The problem with being defined by the things that we do is when those activities come to an end, when we outgrow them, when they're no longer something that we're able to do, we lose a bit of who we are as a human being. The first word of Psalm 46:10 is be. As Christians, we're not just called to do, we're called to be. We are called from time to time to be at rest, to be still, to be in God's presence, to be defined by our Creator and not the created world around us. We are called to be content, to be people of joy, to be people that have come to understand what peace is all about. I'm going to take a poke here that may unsettle some of us here, but we live in a time where more and more of our kids are struggling with anxiety and anxiety disorders and stress disorders. We are living in a time where more and more of our kids, and we as adults, are needing medication to take the edge off. This is not an anti-medication rant, but I think that pattern is telling. Over the last few years, I have been to the emergency room a couple of times for heart palpitations. I have been dealing with a little bit of a heart issue. It's not a big deal, but I have had a couple of times where I have been off to the emergency room thinking that I am dealing with a heart attack. Heart issues are what my family tends to deal with through the generations. By the time my dad was, I think, 48, he had his first heart attack. I spent quite a bit of time over a period of time speaking with a cardiologist and my doctor about this heart issue. And again, I've got a little blip with my heart. It's not a big deal. But what we came to understand was the symptoms that I was dealing with was speaking to the stress that I was dealing with in my life. I began to recognize that I was dealing with an anxiety issue. I was starting to have panic attacks. And from a pride issue, I struggled with that reality for a while. But I've come to terms with the fact that I have been dealing with those things because I have not been living with healthy rhythms in my life. There have not been healthy rhythms of rest and ebbs and flows of peace and prayer. I tend to get a little bit nervous with quiet. I am a type A, kind of crazy sort of person, and I need to be busy. I need to be doing. And I lost the balance between doing and being. If all your kids are engaged in is doing, there are going to be some growing issues. There has to be the balance between doing and being. And for we as adults, if all it is work, if all it is going and going and going, if you're not able to slow yourself down from time to time, I'm going to tell you, you're probably moving in a dangerous direction to where doing has completely taken over, and there's not a healthy balance between doing and being. Tonight, I want to talk quickly about a verse that I started with Sunday in worship, be joyful always. And the next verse is pray continually. And the next verse is give thanks in all circumstances. Those verses come from 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 16 to 18. Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. Tuesday night, I I talked an awful lot about joy. We focused on verse 16. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, because I think those verses speak a little bit to the rhythms of life that you and I are called to live as people that profess to believe in the living God, who profess to be a follower of Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. Prayer is one of those things that are a struggle for some. Some have gotten prayer. Some people talk a lot about the fact that I try to pray and I get distracted. I haven't prayed really well in a long time. I need somebody to pray for me. I have talked to people that speak of the reality that I have a tendency to pray for others, but I struggle to pray for myself. Prayer is one of those things that is a struggle for a lot of folks, and yet for those of us that believe in God, we are called to be people of prayer. Verse 17 of 1 Thessalonians 5, pray continually. Now, what is that saying? God is not saying to be on your knees and pray 24 hours a day. We can't do that. We have responsibilities. We have things that we need to be doing. But what this verse is talking about is we need to start to slow ourselves down from time to time to where a state of prayer begins to grow in our lives. When I am in a good groove with prayer, I have a tendency to lift up what I call bullet prayers. They're just one-line sentences. When I see somebody in need or hear of something, I share a sentence or two. When I'm going in to meet with somebody, God, help me with this conversation. Give me the direction and guidance that I need. When I know my daughter's struggling with something, God, walk with Abigail right now and help her with what's going on. When I am confused or struggling to make sense of things, God, bring clarity to my mind. That is what praying continually is all about. But in order for that to happen, you and I need to come to understand that from time to time, we need to shut up. We need to bring stillness. We need to set the phones aside. How important are you really that the phone has to be on 24 hours a day and you can't set it aside or silence it or turn it off for a little bit? How important do you really think you are? One of the reasons we have a tendency not to pray an awful lot is because we want to be in control. And when I am trying to control my life, when I am trying to control circumstances, I am less likely to pray because of my attitude is, I got this. I can handle this. We don't. We're not in control. We can't handle everything. When we're struggling with other people, we have a tendency to try to own their behavior. You want to drive yourself crazy? Own the behavior of other people, or try. A healthy rhythm there is to pray for those people that are driving you crazy. A healthy rhythm is to try to begin to let go of control and hand things over to God and speak to Him more about the things that we have going on. Pray continually speaks of beginning the day with prayer. Pray continually speaks to ending the day with prayer. It's silencing ourselves during the course of the day. For me, I need moments of worship to bring stillness to my heart. And in just a moment, we're going to worship together with just one song. But I want us to use this song here in just a moment to quiet ourselves down. I am easily distracted. I am not an incredibly self-disciplined kind of person. I am high energy. I drive my wife crazy oftentimes. I'm always tapping something and playing with something, and there's this nervous, fidgeting energy that's always going on with me. And those kinds of things make it hard for me to pray, to meditate, and bring stillness into my life. And I've gotten into the point recently where I've got some playlists on Alexa of some of my favorite worship songs. And I have gotten to where I've gotten better and better and better with sitting for 10, 15, 20 minutes and closing my eyes and singing and worshiping. We're going to worship here in just a moment. There's a hymn that we're going to play. The lyrics are going to be on the screen. If you feel led to sing along, sing along. If you feel led to close your eyes and quiet yourself, do that. If you feel led to get on your knees for a moment in front of the couch and just really quiet yourselves, I encourage you to do that. But rid yourselves of distraction. Let's take a moment and worship together.
Sung by flaming tongues above, praise the mountain fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming. I was lost in utter darkness till you came and rescued me. I was bound by all my sin when your love came and set me free. Now my soul can sing a new song. Now my heart has found the home. Now your grace is always with me, and I'll never be alone. Come now,
What did you feel there? What was going on in your heart? What was going on in your soul there? That was just one song, and like I said, as I'm getting ready to pray these days, I am trying to go into a place of worship for a little bit first, because like I said, I as the song says, I have a wandering heart. I have kind of a scattered mind at times. I am high energy and have a hard time quieting myself down. And yet the command that we're being given in this scripture verse is to pray continuously. I need to be able to pray without distraction. I need to be able to talk to God without a variety of other things competing for time. Now, here's another way to kind of explain that. Jen and I have been married 18 years. And that kind of blows me away. It's been that long that she's put up with me for all of these years. But there are times when Jen and I know that this might not be the best time to have a really important conversation. For instance, when the Red Sox are on TV or on the Patriots are on TV, Jen kind of knows that's probably not going to be the best time for us to have a life-altering conversation because I am going to be highly distracted. I can mute the TV and not listen to it, but my one eye is here and one eye is on Jen. Jen has these things that she does that, I know that I really can't get into things with her at that point in time. We are easily distracted. And that's really the biggest reason a lot of people struggle with the whole prayer thing is distraction. Right before I started tonight, I kind of came up with a list of some of the reasons that I pray. I pray to find power in my life because I'm weak at times. I pray to find peace. And boy, the number of times that I have been restless and stressed out, and I prayed, and something washed over me. That something is peace. There are times I pray for hope. There are times I pray for forgiveness. There are times I pray to allow rest to settle upon me. There are times I pray that God would give me focus. There are times I pray that God would give me the words that I need to speak going into a ministry situation. There are times that I pray simply to draw from a deep well of God's presence because I am in need. There are times that I pray for greater understanding. There are times that I pray to celebrate God and to share my love and affection with Him. That's an important part of this. But be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. Now understand that verse, it's not saying to give thanks for all circumstances, because as we talked about the other day, life has kind of a suck factor to it. And some days a suck factor goes up to an 8 or a 9 or a 10. It's a bad day. We're not necessarily be thankful for the things that are happening. But I've come to understand over these last 8 weeks that as frustrating as isolation has been for me, as frustrating as it's been not to be gathering with the church family regularly in person, there have been a lot of blessings that have come along during this time. There are a lot of ways in which I have been blessed. There's a lot of things I have learned. There's a lot of basics that I've kind of brought myself back to, those moments of Sabbath. If I don't keep myself in check, it's very easy for me to work 7 days a week to kind of avoid the day off. And I've had people kind of scolding me and getting on me for that. But if I don't keep myself in check, I go to that place and I just go and go and go. I do and do and do instead of being. One of the things that I have been doing over the course of the last couple of months is working on our new yard. Today I had a couple of folks helping me, and we planted 5 cherry trees and a couple of new pear trees. When this is all done, I'm going to have 25 fruit trees and probably 3 dozen different berry bushes, from blueberries and raspberries and blackberries to goji berries and gooseberries and a fig tree and a host of other things. And I have a lot of people from time to time, well, why are you doing that kind of stuff? That seems like a lot of work. For a person whose life revolves around meetings and sitting behind a desk and reading and writing and that sort of thing, going outside and getting my hands dirty and getting sweaty and getting in the dirt and digging holes, that is my respite. That is my Sabbath. That is me pulling away from the things that I normally would be doing. I encourage you during all of this time to begin to rediscover what a Sabbath is all about, Sabbath time, time in which we can be joyful and pray continually and give thanks in all circumstances. It's funny how those three work together and are intertwined. The more I pray, the more time I have to give thanks, and the more thankful I am, the more joy-filled I become. And the more joy-filled I become, the more I want to spend time in God's presence praying to Him, and these things bounce back and forward with one another. We're living in a time where joy is hard to come by. Contentment almost doesn't exist. We struggle to pray even somewhat regularly, let alone continually. And Thanksgiving, I've kind of discovered with all that's gone on here the last couple of months, we have a tendency to take things for granted, don't we? So rhythms. What are your life rhythms? The world is slowly getting ready to start opening up again. And before we get to that point, what lesson or lessons do you need to learn from this time? How do you need to get your life rhythms into better synchronicity? How can you take steps to bring stillness? How do you need to go about being a little bit more than doing, or finding greater balance in that? What lessons can we teach our children? Do we need to bring our children back to a place where they are going 100 miles an hour, 12 months out of the year, going? The reality is, down the road, sports aren't going to be the thing that are necessarily going to bring them meaning. Most of our kids aren't going to become professional athletes and make millions of dollars doing that. We're giving them good experiences, and there are life lessons to be learned in that. But are we focusing on helping our kids to be one of God's children? Be a person of peace who lives with hope. Be joy-filled. Be all of those things that God desires of us. I'm going to start to wind us down here tonight and wrap us up. I've learned a lot over these last couple of months. I learned a lot during all of those appointments with my doctor and the cardiologist I was given because of these physical symptoms that I was having. Ministry can be tough. Ministry over the last couple of years for me at times has been pretty painful and kind of hard to endure. I don't think I need to tell us all. I may need to remind us that stress doesn't just impact us emotionally. It wears us down physically, and that was one of the things that I had going on in my life. It was humbling to get to this place where it wasn't a major heart issue that I was dealing with. It was a stress disorder. It was an overwhelming need to sleep better, which is something that I don't do. I needed to find better life rhythms for me. And the more healthy those rhythms have become, the more joy-filled I have become again. The more thankful and grateful I have become. The more centered I have become to pray. I've rambled a little bit tonight. Those are the thoughts that God kind of brought to my heart this afternoon as I was on my knees in the dirt, planting and doing the things that kind of recharge my batteries. Like I said, the world's getting ready to open up again. We're starting to get to that place where things are slowly going to, probably in awkward fashion, start to get back to some sense of normalcy. We're gonna have a very different normal pushing forward, and I hope the church isn't going to go back to who we were before this. I hope we're going to become something new. I've already talked about that. I'm not going to bore you with that this evening. But as the world gets ready to open up, what do you need to do to bounce back with better life rhythms? I'm going to close us in just a moment with a video, but join me with a word of prayer. Be still. Be still and know. Be still and know that Be still and know that I. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God. First Baptist Church, be strong and courageous. We're going to end with this video.